The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, Volume 2, Section 1, Chapter 4, Bhakti or Devotion. The idea of a personal God has obtained in almost every religion, except a very few. With the exception of Buddhism and the Jain, perhaps all the religions of the world have the idea of personal God, and with it comes the idea of evolution and worship. The Buddhists and the Jains, although they have no personal God, worship the founder of their religion in precisely the same way the other worship a personal God. This idea of devotion and worship to some higher being who can reflect back the love to man is universal. In various religions, this love and devotion is manifested in various degrees at different stages. The lowest stage is that of ritualism, when abstract ideas are almost impossible and are dragged down to the lowest plane and made concrete. Forms come into play, and along with them, various symbols. Throughout the history of the world, we find that man is trying to grasp the abstract through thought forms or symbols. All the external manifestation of religion, bells, music, rituals, books, and images come under that head. Anything that applies to the senses, anything that helps man to form a concrete image of the abstract, is taken hold of and worshipped. From time to time, there have been reformers in every religion who have stood against all symbols and rituals. But vain has been their opposition. For so long as man will remain as he is, the vast majority will always want something concrete to hold on to, something around which, as it were, to place their ideas, something which will be the center of all the thought forms in their minds. The great attempts of the Mohammedans and of the Protestants have been directed to this one end of doing away with all rituals, and yet we find that even with them, ritual have crept in. They cannot be kept out. After long struggle, the masses simply change one symbol for another. The Mohammedans, who think that every ritual, every form, every image or ceremony used by the non-Mohammedan is sinful, does not does not think so when he comes to his own shrine, the Kaaba. Every religious Mohammedan, wherever he prays, must imagine that he is standing before the Kaaba. When he makes a pilgrimage there, he must kiss the black stone in the wall of the shrine. All the kisses that have been imprinted on the stone by millions and millions of pilgrims will stand up as a witness for the benefit of the faithful on the last day of judgment. Then there is the well of Zimzim. Mohammedans believe that whoever draws a little water out of the well will have his sin pardoned, and he will, after the day of resurrection, have a fresh body and live forever. In others, we find that the symbology comes in the form of the buildings. Protestants hold that churches are more sacred than other places. The church, as it is, stands for a symbol. Or there is the book. The idea of the book to them is much holier than any other symbols. It is vain to preach against the use of symbols, and why should we preach against them? There is no reason why men should not use symbols. They have been they have them they have them in order to represent the ideas signified behind them. This universe is a symbol, and in and through which we are trying to grasp the thing significant, which is beyond and behind. The spirit is the goal and not the matter. Forms, images, bells, candles, books, churches, temples, and all the holy symbols are very good, very helpful to growing plant of spirituality. But thus far and no further. It is in the vast majority of cases we find that the plant does not grow. It is very good to be born in the church, but it is very bad to die in the church. It is very good to born within the limit of certain forms that help the little plant of spirituality. But if a man dies within the bounds of these forms, it shows that he has not grown and that there has been no development of the soul. If therefore anyone says that symbols, rituals, and forms are to be kept forever, he is wrong. But if he says that these symbols and rituals are a help to the growth of the soul in its low, undeveloped state, he is right. But you must not mistake on this development of soul as meaning anything intellectual. A man can be a gigantic intellect, yet spiritually he may be a baby. You can verify it this moment. All of you have been taught to believe in the omnipresent God. Try to think of it. How few of you can have any idea of what omnipresence means? If you struggle hard, you will get something like the idea of ocean or sky or the vast sketches of green earth, or a desert. All these are material images, and so long as you cannot conceive of the abstract as abstract, of the idea as the idea, you will have to restore or resort to these forms, these material images. It does not make much difference whether these images are inside or outside the mind. We are all born isolators, and isolatry is good because it is in the nature of man who can get bound it. Only the perfect man, the good man. The rest are all idolaters. So long as we see the universe before us with its form and shapes, we are all idolaters. This is gigantic symbol we are worshipping. We who say he is the body is a born idolater. We are spirit, that has no form or shape, spirit that is infinite and not matter. Therefore, anyone who cannot grasp the abstract, who cannot think of himself as he is, accepted and through matter as the body, is an idolater. And yet, how people fight among themselves, calling one another isolators. In other words, each say his idol is right and others are wrong. Therefore, we should get rid of these childish notions. We should get beyond the prattle of men who think that religion is merely a mass of froth words, that it is only the system of doctrine, to whom religion is only a little intellectual assent or dissent, to whom religion is believing in certain words which their old priest tells them, to whom religion is something which their forefathers believed, to whom religion is a certain form of ideas and superstitions to which they cling because they are their national superstitions. We should get beyond all this and look at humanity as one vast organism, slowly coming towards light, a wonderful plant, slowly unfolding itself to the wonderful truth which is called God. And the first gyrations, the first motions towards this are always through matter and through rituals. In the heart of all this ritualism, there stands one idea prominent above all the rest, the worship of the name. Those of who those of you who have studied the older forms of Christianity, more oldest form of Christianity, those of you who have studied the other religion of the world, perhaps have marked that there is this idea with them all, the worship of the name. A name is said to be very sacred. In Bible we read that the holy name of God was considered scared beyond compare, holy beyond everything. It was the holiest of all the names, and it was thought that this very word was God. This is quite true. This is quite true. What is this universe but a name and form? Can you think without words? Word and thought are inseparable. Try if any one of you can separate them. Whenever you think, you are doing so through words form. The one brings the other. Thought brings the word, and the word brings the thought. Thus, the whole universe is, as it were, the external symbol of God. And behind that stands his grand name. Each particular body is a form, and behind the particular body is its name. As soon as you think of our friend so and so, there comes the idea of his body. And as soon as you think of your friend's body, you get the idea of his name. This is in the constitution of man, that that is to say, psychologically, in the mind stuff of men, there cannot come the idea of name without the idea of form, and then cannot come the idea of form without the idea of name. They are inseparable, they are the external and internal side of the same wave. As such, names have been exalted and worshipped all over the world. Consciously or unconsciously, men found the glory of names. Again, we find that in many different religions, holy personages have been worshipped. They worship Krishna, they worship Buddha, they worship Jesus, and so forth. Then there is a worship of saints. Hundreds of them have been worshipped all over the world. And why not? The vibration of light is everywhere. The whole sea, the owl sees in the darkness. That shows it is there. Though man cannot see it, to men, that vibration is only visible in the lamp, in the sun, in the moonlight, and etc. God is omnipresent. He is manifesting himself in every being, but for man, he is only visible, cognizable in man. When his light, his presence, his spirit shines through the human face, then and then only can man understand him. Thus, man has been worshipping God through man all the time and must do so as long as he is a man. He may cry against it, struggle against it, but as soon as he attempts to realize God, he will find the constitutional necessity of things of God as a man. So, we find that in almost every religion, these are the three primary things which we have in the worship of God: form or symbol, name, and God-man. All religions have thus this, have this, but you find that they want to fight with each other. One say, my name is the only name, my form is the only form, my God-man is only God-man in the world. You are simply myth. In modern times, Christian clergymen have become a little kinder, and they allow that in the older religions the different form of worship were foreshadowing of Christianity, which of course they consider is the only truth form. god tested God tested himself in older time, tested his power by getting these things into shape, which culminated in Christianity. This, at least, is a great advance. 50 years ago, they would not have said even that. Nothing was true except their own religion. This idea is not limited to any religion, nation, or class of person. People are always thinking that the only right thing to be done by others is what they themselves are doing. And it is here that the study of different religions help us. It shows us that the same thoughts that we have been calling ours and ours alone were present hundreds of years ago in others, and sometimes even in the better forms of expressions than our own. These are the external forms of devotion through which man has up to pass. If he is sincere, if he really wants to reach the truth, he goes higher than this to a book or a form, to a plane where forms are as nothing. Temples or churches, books or forms are simply the kindergarten of religion to make the spiritual child strong enough to take higher steps, and these first steps are necessary if you want religion. With the first, with the thirst, the longing for God comes real devotion, real bhakti. Who has the longing? That is the question. Religion is not in doctrine, in dogmas, nor in the intellectual arguments. It is been and become, it is realization. We hear so many talkings about God and soul and all the mysteries of the universe, but if you take them one by one and ask them, have you realized God? Have you seen your soul? How many can say they have? And yet they are fighting with one another. At one time in India, representatives of different sects met together and began to dispute. One said that only God was Shiva, another said only God was Vishnu, and so on. And there was no idea to their discussion. A sage was passing that way and was invited by the disputant to decide the matter. He first asked the man who was claiming Shiva as a great god, have you seen Shiva? Are you acquired with him? If not, how do you know he is the greatest god? Then turning to the worshippers of Vishnu, he said, have you seen Vishnu? And after asking this question to all of them, he found out that not one of them knew anything of God. That was why they were disputing so much. For had they really known, they would not have argued. When a jar is been filled with water, it makes a noise, but when it is full, it does not. So the very fact of this disputation and fighting among sect shows that they do not know anything about religion. Religion is to them is a mere mass of frothy work to write to be written in books. Each one hurries to write a big book to make it as massive as possible, stealing his material from every book he can lay his hands upon and never acknowledge his indebatedness. Then he launches this book upon the world, adding to the disturbance that is already existing here. The vast majority of men are ethics. I am glad that in the modern times another class of ethics has come into existence in the Western world. I mean the materialistics. They are sincere ethics. They are better than the religious ethics who are insincere, who fight and talk about religion and yet do not want it, never try to realize it, never try to understand it. Then remember the words of Christ. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened into you. These words are literally true, not figures or fictions. They are the outflow of the heart's blood of one of the greatest Son of God who have ever come to the world of ours. Words which came as the fruit of realization from a man who had felt the felt and realized God himself, who had spoken with God, believed with God 100 times more intensely than you and I see this building. Who want God? That is the question. Do you think that all this mass of people in the world want God and cannot get it? That cannot be. What want is there without its object it's on the outside. Men want to breathe and there is the air for him to breathe. Men want to eat and there is food to eat. What cares this desire? The existence of external things. It was the light that made the eyes. It was the sound that made the ears. So every desire in human being has been created by something which already existed outside. This desire for perfection, for reaching the goal and getting beyond nature, how can it be there until something has created it and drilled into it the soul of man and makes it live there? He therefore in whom this desire is awakened will reach to the goal. We want everything by God. This is not religion that you see all around. My lady, their furniture in her parlor from all over the world, and now it is the fashion to know. Now it is the fashion to have something Japanese, and to so she buys a vase and put it in her room. Such a is religion which, with the vast majority, they have all sort of things for enjoyment, and unless they did, unless they add a little flavor of religion, life is not all right because society would criticize them, society expect it, so they must have some words or some religion. This is the present state of the religion in world. A disciple went to his master A disciple went to his master and said to him, Sir, I want religion. The master looked at the young man and did not speak but only smiled. The young man came every day and insisted that he wanted religion. But the old man knew better than the young man. One day, when it was very hot, he asked the young man to go to the river with him and take a plunge. The young man plunged in, and the old man followed him and held the young man down under the water by force. After the young man had struggled for a while, he let him go and asked him what he wanted most while he let him go and asked him what he wanted most while he was under the water. A breath of air, the disciple answered. Do you want God in that way? If you do, you will get him in the moment, said the master. Until you have that thirst, that desire, you cannot get religion. However, you may struggle with other intellect or your books or your forms until that thirst is awakened to you. You are no better than any ethics. Only the ethic is sincere. That is, and you are not. A great sage used to say, suppose there is a thief in a room, and somehow he comes to know that there is a vast mass of gold in the next room, and that there is only thin partition between the two rooms. What would be the condition of the thief? He would be sleepless, he would not be able to eat or do anything. His whole mind would be on the getting that gold. Do you mean to say that if all these people really believed in the mind of happiness, of blessedness, of glory were here, they would act as they do it in the world without trying to get God. As soon as a man begins to believe that God is a there is a God, he becomes mad with longing to get to him. Others say go there. Others may go there, their way. There. Others may go their way, but as soon as a man is sure that there is much higher life than that which he is leading here, as soon as he feels sure that the senses are not all, that this limited material body is nothing compared with the immortal eternality, underlying bliss of the self, and he becomes mad until he finds out this bliss for himself, and this madness, this thirst, this mania is called as awakening to real religion. And when that has come, a man begins to be religious. But it takes a long time. All these forms and ceremonies, these prayers and pilgrimages, these books, bells, candles, priests, and are the preparations. They take become pure. It naturally want to get to the mind of the purity, God Himself, just as a piece of iron which had been covered with the dust of centuries might be lying near the magnet all the time, and yet not be attracted by it. But as soon as the dust is cleared away, the iron is drawn by the magnet. So, what the hundred souls covered with dust of the ages, impurities, wickedness, sinners, after and many births purified enough by becomes purified enough by these forms and ceremonies, by doing good to others, loving other bodies, its natural spiritual attraction comes, it wakes up and struggles towards God. At all these forms and symbols are simply the beginning, not true love of God. Love we hear spoken of everywhere. Everyone says love God. Men do not Men do not know what it is to love. If they did, if they did, they would, if they did, they would not talk so glibly about it. Every man says he can love, then in no time finds out that there is no love in his nature. Every woman says she can love and soon finds out that she cannot. The world is full of talks of love, but it is hard to love. Where is love? How do you know that there is love? The first test of the love has that is that it knows no bargaining. So long as you see a man love anybody only to get something from him, you know that that is not love. It is shopping. Whoever this is, any question of the buyer and seller, it is give it is not love. So, when a man prays to God, give me this and give me that, it is not love. How can it be? I offer you a prayer and you give me something in return. That is what is merely shopkeeping. A certain great king went to hunt in the forest, and there he happened to meet a sage. He had a little conversation with him and became so pleased with him that he asked him to accept a present from him. No, said the sage, I am perfectly satisfied with my condition. These trees give me enough fruits to eat. This beautiful pure stream supplies me with all the waters I want. Sleep is this in these caves. What do I care for your present? Through through you can you through of what do I care for your present, though you be an emperor? The emperor said, just to purify me, to gratify me, some come with me into the city and take some present. At the last, the sage consented to go to with the emperor, and he was taken into the emperor's palace, where there were gold, jewelries, marble, most wonderful things. Wealth and power were mere manifested everywhere. The emperor asked the sage to wait a minute while he repeated his prayers and the wealth, more children, and or more territory. In the meanwhile, the sage got up and began to walk away. The emperor saw going and went back after him. Stay, sir. You did not take my present, and are you going? The sage turned to him and said, "Beggar, I do not beg of beggars. What can you give? You have been begging yourself at the time." That is not the language of love. What is the difference between love and shopkeeping? Is what if you ask God to give you things, this and give you that. The first test of love is that it knows no bargaining. Love is always the bargainer. Love is always the giver and never the taker, says the child of God. If God takes, I give him my everything, but I do not want anything to him, anything of him. Anything of him. I want nothing in this universe. I love him because I want to love him, and I ask no favor in return. Who cares whether my God is mighty is there or not? I do not want any power from him, nor any manifestation of his power sufficient for me that he is God of love. I ask no more questions. The second test is that love knows no fear. So long as men think of God as a being sitting above the clouds with rewards in one hand and punishment in other, there can be no love. Can you frighten one into love? Does the lamb love the lion, the mouse the cat, the slaves the master? Slaves sometimes simulate love, but is it the love? Where do you ever see love in fear? It is always a shame. With love near comes the idea of fever or fear. Think of the young mother in the street. If a dog barks at her, she flees into the nearest house. She the next day she is in the street with her child, and suppose the lion rushes upon the child, where will be her position? Just at the mouth of the lion, protecting her child. Love conquered all her fears. So also in the love of God, who cares whether God is rewarder or punisher? That is not the thought of the love. This thing of the jungle. When he comes home, and does his wife see in it or in him? Not a judge or a rewarder or a punisher, but her husband, her love. What do your children see in him? Their father, no, not punisher, not rewarder. So the children of the God never see in him a punisher or a rewarder. It is okay. No, only it is only personal. It is only people who have never tasted of love that fear and quakes. Cast off all fear, thou, this horrible idea of God, are as punished, as a punisher or fear, as a punisher or a rewarder may have their use in savage minds. Some men, even the most intellectual, are spiritual wages. This idea have helped them. But to men who are spiritualized men are who are approaching religion, in whom spiritual insight is awakened, such as such ideas are simply childish, simply foolish. Such men reject all the ideas of fear. The third is to start higher test. Love is always the highest idea. When one has passed through the first two stages. When one has thrown off all the shopkeepings and cast off all fears, then one then begins to realize that love is always the highest idea. How many times in this world we see the beautiful woman loving an ugly man? How many times we have seen men loving a beautiful men? How many times we have seen a handsome man loving an ugly woman? What is the attraction? Looker on only see the ugly man or ugly woman, but not so the lovers. To the lovers, the beloved is the most beautiful being that exists or ever existed. How is it the woman who loves the ugly man takes as it were the idea of beauty which is in her own mind and the projects it on the ugly man, and what she worships and loves is not the ugly man but her own idea. That man is also as it were only the suggestion, and upon that suggestion she throws her own idea and covers it, and it becomes her object of worship. Now, this applies in every case where we love. Many of us have very ordinary looking brothers and sisters, yet the very idea of this being brothers and sisters makes them beautiful to us. The philosophy is the backbone of that each one project his own idea and worships that. The external world is only the world of suggestion. All that we see, we project out of our minds a grain of sand which washed into the shell of the oyster irritates it. The irritation produces secretion in the oyster, which covers the grain of sand, and beautiful pearl is the result. Similarly, external things furnish us with suggestions over which we project our own ideas and make those objects. The wicked sees this world as a perfect hell and goes as a perfect heaven. Lovers see this world as full of love and hatred. तो सुनाओ as full of hatred. Fighters see nothing but strife, and the peaceful nothing but peace. The perfect man sees nothing but God. So we always worship our highest idea, and when we have reached the point, when we love the idea as the idea, all arguments and doubt vanishes forever. Who can never go because the idea of my own nature. I shall only question the idea when I question my own existence. And as I cannot question the one, I cannot question the other. Who cares whether God can be mighty and all merciful at the same time or not? Who cares whether He is the rewarder of mankind, whether He looks at us with the eyes of tyrant or with the eyes of the beneficent monarch? The love has passed beyond all these things, beyond rewards and punishments, beyond fears and doubt, beyond scientific or any other demonstration. Sufficiently unto him is the idea of love, and it is not self evident that this universe is but the manifestation of this love. What is it that makes atom unite with atom, molecules with molecules, and cause planets to fly towards each other? What is that attracts man to man, man to man, man, man to man, man to man, man to woman, woman to man, animal to animal, drawing the whole universe as it were towards one center. It is what is called love. This manifestation is from the lowest atom of the highest being, omnipotent, all pervading in the poor, all pervading, all pervading is this love. That manifestation itself has attraction in the sentient and insentient in a particular and in the universal is the love of God. It is one motion power that is in the universe under the impetus of the love. Christ gives his life for humanity. Buddha ever even for an animal, others the mother for the child, the husband for the wife. It is under the impetus of same love that men are ready to give up their lives for their country, and strange to say, under the impetus of the same love, the thief steal, the murderers murder. Even in these cases, the spirit is the same, but the manifestation is different. Is different. This is the one motive power of the universe. The thief has love for gold. The love is there, but it is misdirected. So, in all crimes, as well as in all virtual actions, behind stands that eternal love. Suppose a man writes a check for $1,000 for a poor New York in New York, and at the same time in the same room another man forges the name of the friend. The light my which the light by which both of them write is the same, but each one will be responsible for the use he makes of it. It is not the light that is to be praised or blamed. Unattached, yet shining is everything in love, the motive power of the universe, without which the universe would fall to pieces moment, in the moment, and this is love in God. None, O beloved, loves the husband for the husband's sake, but the self. None, O beloved, loves the husband for the husband's sake, but for the self that is in the husband. None, O beloved, ever loves the wife for the wife's sake, but for the self that is in the wife. None ever loves anything else except for the self. Even this selfishness, which is so much condemned, is but a manifestation of same love. Stand aside from this play, do not mix in it, but see this wonderful panorama, this grand drama played cent by cent, and here this wonderful harmony. All are the manifestation of the same love. Even in selfishness, that selfish will multiply, grow, and grow. One self, that one self, the one man, will become two selves when he gets married, and several when he gets children, and thus he grows until he feels the whole world has his self, the whole universe has his self. He expands into one mass of the universal love, infinite love, the love that is God. Thus we come to what is called supreme bhakti, supreme devotion, in which form and symbol falls off. One who has reached that cannot belong to any sect, for all sects are in him. To what shall he belong? For all churches and temples are in him. Where is the church big enough for him? Such a man cannot bind himself down to certain limited forms. Where is the limit for unlimited love with which he has become one? In all religion which take up the idea of love, we find a struggle of expression. Although we understand what this love means and see that everything in the world of affection and attraction is manifested of that infinite love, the expression of which has been attempted by sages and saints and different nations. Yet we find them using all powers of language, transfiguring even the most carnal expressions into the into the divine. Thus, thus sang the royal Hebrew sage. Thus sang the day of India, O beloved, one kiss of thy lips, kissed by thy one thirst for the thy increases forever. All sorrows cease. One forget the past, present, future, and only thinks of thy alone. That is the madness of the lover. When When all the addresses have vanished, you care. Who cares about for salvation? Who cares for to be saved? Who cares to be perfect even? Who cares for freedom? Says the lover. I do not want wealth. I do not want wealth nor even health. I do not want beauty. I do not want intellect. Let me be born again and again, and amid all the evils that are in the world, I will not accompany, but let him, let me love, die, and for that for love's sake. That is the madness of love which finds expression in these songs. The highest, most expensive, strongest, and the most attractive human love is that between man and woman. And therefore, that language was used in expressions the deepest devotee. The madness of this human love was the faintest echo of the mad love of the saints. The true lovers of God want to become mad, inebriated with love of God, to become God intoxicated men. They want to drink up the cup of love which has become prepared by the saints and sages of every religion, who have poured their heart's blood into it, and in which have been concentrated all the hopes of those love for itself only. The reward of love is love, and what a reward it is! It is the only thing that takes off all sorrows, the only cup by the drinking of which this disease of world vanishes. Man becomes divinely mad, and forgets that he is man. Lastly, we find that all these various systems in the end converge to that one point, that perfect union. We always begin as dualistic. God is a separate being, and I am a separate being. Love comes between, and man begins to approach God, and God, as it were, begin to approach man. Man takes up all various relationship of life as father, mother, friends, or lovers, and the last point of reached when he becomes one with the object of worship. I am you, you are I am you, you are I, and worship you, I worship myself, and in worshipping myself, I worship you. There we find the highest culmination of that with which man begins. At the beginning, he at the beginning, it was love for the self, but the claims of little self made love selfish. At the end came the full blaze of light, when that self had become the infinite, that God who at first was a being somewhere became resolved, as it were, into infinite love. Man himself was also transformed. He was approaching God. He was throwing off all vain desires of which he was full before. With desires vanished selflessness, with desire vanished selfishness, and at the apex he found that love, lover, and beloved were one. With desire vanished selfishness, with desires vanished selfishness, and at the apex he found that love, lover, and beloved were one.